At Grandpa's funeral reception, my brother stood by the buffet table in his $8,000 suit, checking his Rolex every 10 minutes. 73 people came to pay respects. My brother complained about the parking. I didn't yell at him. I walked away. 3 days later, Grandpa's estate attorney called us both into his office with a file so thick it didn't fit in his briefcase. Inside was $6.2 million, a set of conditions that would expose everything, and proof that for 35 years my parents had been lying about who I really was. I should have seen it coming. But when you spend your whole life trying to earn love from people who've already decided you're not worth it, you miss the obvious signs. That morning had started like every Sunday for the past 8 years. I woke up at dawn in my downtown apartment, the kind of place investment bankers are supposed to want. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Marble countertops I never used. A walk-in closet full of suits that cost more than my first car. Everything my parents said would make them proud. My name's Daniel Preston. I'm 37 years old, and I've spent the last 15 years building a career in investment banking that should have been enough. Senior vice president at one of the top firms in Manhattan. 7-figure income, partnership track. The kind of success my father used to talk about when I was a kid, back when he still talked to me about anything that mattered. But every Sunday morning, instead of networking at the country club or taking clients to brunch, I drove 45 minutes to Grandpa's assisted living facility in New Jersey. Same routine. Coffee from the diner he liked, the one that made it too strong and served it in actual ceramic mugs. Newspapers, he wanted the physical paper, said screens hurt his eyes. And whatever errand he'd mentioned during my last visit. Batteries for his hearing aids. That specific brand of hard candy he couldn't find in the facility shop. Once, a harmonica because he'd decided at 87 that he wanted to learn something new. My brother Marcus made partner at his law firm 3 years ago. Corporate litigation. He bought a Porsche to celebrate. Silver because he said it photographed better for his Instagram. Marcus lived 20 minutes closer to Grandpa's facility than I did. He visited twice a year. Birthday and Christmas. Stayed for 30 minutes. Took a photo for Mom and Dad to share in the family group chat I'd been removed from 2 years earlier. Still playing nurse? Marcus texted me once, when Mom mentioned I'd taken Grandpa to a cardiology appointment. That's what the facility staff is for. I didn't respond. I never did. Because somewhere between childhood and now, I'd learned that defending yourself to people who've already decided you're less than is just another form of begging. The signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. When I was 6 years old, my parents threw Marcus a birthday party that looked like something from a magazine. Rented bounce house. Magician. 80 kids from his kindergarten class. Mom made a 3-tier cake shaped like a fire truck because that's what Marcus wanted. Dad grilled burgers and wore a chef's hat that said Grill Master, and everyone took photos. My birthday was 11 days after Marcus's. When the day came, Mom made spaghetti, my least favorite food, which she knew because I told her approximately 700 times, and Dad brought home a grocery store sheet cake with Happy Birthday, written in that generic frosting that tastes like chemicals and regret. No friends. No party. Just the 4 of us at the kitchen table, Marcus complaining that he wanted pizza instead. Mom checking her phone while I blew out 7 candles that didn't even match. Not everyone needs a big production, Dad said when I asked why Marcus got a party and I didn't. You're more low-key, introspective. That's a good thing. I was 6. I didn't know what introspective meant, but I knew that low-key was adult code for not worth the effort. Marcus played soccer. Dad went to every game, every practice, bought him cleats that cost more than our monthly grocery bill. When Marcus scored a goal, Dad filmed it on his camcorder and showed it to everyone who came to the house. Neighbors, his work colleagues, the mailman, anyone who would stand still for 30 seconds. I tried soccer once. Lasted 3 weeks before Dad said I didn't have the instinct for it, and that maybe I should find something more suited to my temperament. I was 9. I asked what that meant. He said, indoor activities, books, things where you don't have to depend on a team. So I learned that I was the kind of person who should expect to be alone. When I was 12, I made honor roll for the first time. All A's. I brought the report card home like it was made of gold. Mom glanced at it, said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to watching Marcus's baseball game on the field across town via live stream that Dad had set up because God forbid they miss a single inning. Marcus made honor roll every semester. They put his certificates in frames, hung them in the hallway, threw him a dinner at the steakhouse where Dad proposed to Mom. When I made honor roll, I got "that's nice" and a reminder that I needed to clean my room. But Grandpa noticed. Grandpa always noticed. He lived with us back then, in the downstairs bedroom that used to be Dad's office. 82 years old and sharp as broken glass. He took my report card from my hands that afternoon, studied it like it was a legal document, then pulled a $20 bill from his wallet and told me to buy myself something I wanted. "You're a smart kid, Danny," he said. Nobody else called me Danny. "Don't let anyone tell you different." I didn't understand why he said it like that, like it was a warning instead of a compliment. That night, I heard him arguing with my father in the kitchen. I sat on the stairs in my pajamas and listened through the crack in the door. "He's your son, Michael." Grandpa's voice, low and angry in a way I'd never heard before. "He's your son, and you treat him like he's a tenant you're waiting to evict. You don't understand the situation." That defensive. "It's complicated." Complicated how? He's a child. He's doing everything right. And you act like he's invisible. He's fine. He doesn't need constant validation like Marcus does. He's more independent. He's 12 years old. Nobody's independent at 12. They just learn to stop asking for what they're not going to get. The conversation ended there. Dad walked out. Grandpa stayed in the kitchen. I went back to my room and tried to figure out what the situation meant. I never did ask, because part of me was afraid of the answer. High school was more of the same. Marcus was the quarterback. Dad went to every game. Mom made signs with glitter and poster board. I ran cross country. Decent at it. Not great, but decent. Made varsity junior year. My parents came to one meet. One. Marcus had a game the same day. They left my meet at halftime to make his kickoff. I won that race. First place. Medal around my neck. Stood on the podium by myself and scanned the crowd for faces I knew wouldn't be there. Grandpa was there. In the back. In his old brown jacket with the elbow patches. He didn't cheer or wave. Just nodded once when I caught his eye. That nod meant more than any trophy. After the meet, he took me to the diner with the too-strong coffee. Let me order whatever I wanted. I got pancakes and bacon and a chocolate milkshake and felt like a king. "You know what your problem is?" he said, stirring sugar into his coffee. 3 packets. Always 3. You're waiting for them to see you. But some people don't want to see. They've already decided who you are, and they're committed to that story. "Why?" I asked. I was 16. Old enough to ask the questions that had been building for a decade. Grandpa looked at me for a long time. Long enough that I thought he wasn't going to answer. Then he said, "Sometimes people protect their own guilt by making you the problem. Easier to ignore you than to face what they did." "What did they do?" Another long pause. Then, "That's a question for when you're older." I'm 37 now. Old enough. And I still didn't know the answer. College was supposed to be my escape. Full ride to a good school. Business degree. I worked harder than I'd ever worked because I had this idea that if I could just succeed enough, achieve enough, prove enough, they'd finally see me the way they saw Marcus. Spoiler alert, they didn't. I graduated summa cum laude. Landed a job at a top investment firm before my classmates even sent out resumes. Called Dad to tell him. He said, "That's great, Dan. Hey, Marcus just got into law school. Columbia. Can you believe it? We're so proud." I didn't correct him that I'd been working for 6 months already, and this was the first time we talked since graduation. Didn't point out that Marcus got into law school because Dad's college roommate was on the admissions board. Just said congratulations and hung up. Grandpa called 10 minutes later. "Heard you got the job. Knew you would. You've got your grandmother's work ethic. Best thing you could have inherited." "Thanks, Grandpa." "They say anything?" I didn't answer. Didn't need to. "Yeah," he said. "Thought so. Listen, I'm proud of you. I know that doesn't replace what you want, but it's true anyway. We talked for 2 hours that night. About work. About his early days in construction. About Grandma, who died when I was 8 and who I still missed in ways I couldn't explain. He never mentioned my parents. Didn't need to. The absence spoke louder than anything he could have said. The years after that followed a pattern so predictable I could have written the script. I made money. They asked for it. I gave it to them. They didn't say thank you. First, it was Marcus's law school tuition. Dad called. Said they were stretched thin with the loans. Could I help out? Just this semester. Just until Marcus finished his first year and could get a summer associate position. I sent $15,000. Didn't hear from them for 8 months. Then it was the roof on their house. Mom called that time. Sounded stressed. Said the contractor quoted them $40,000 and their savings were tied up in renovations for the investment property they'd bought. The property I didn't know existed and definitely hadn't been invited to see. I sent $25,000. Figured they could use the extra for repairs I didn't know about yet. Got a text 3 weeks later. Roof done. Thanks. Thanks. One word. Like I'd held the door open for them instead of funding their entire home improvement. Then Marcus's wedding. Venue deposit. Photographer. Videographer. Band. Open bar. Destination bachelor party in Vegas that cost more than my first car. Every time there was a new expense, I got a call. Every time I sent money. Because maybe this would be the time they'd realize I'd been there all along. I wasn't invited to the bachelor party. Small group, Marcus said when I asked. Just my closest friends. I'd sent $8,000 2 weeks earlier for the party budget. At the wedding, I sat in the back. Row 12. Behind second cousins I'd met once and Mom's coworkers from the dental office. Marcus's best man gave a speech about brotherhood and loyalty and always having each other's backs. Everyone cried. I left during the reception. Grandpa called the next morning. You okay? Yeah. Liar. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Yeah. They don't deserve you. You know that, right? Doesn't make it hurt less. No, he said. It doesn't. We sat on the phone in silence for a while. That's the thing about Grandpa. He understood that sometimes the presence was enough. You didn't need words. Just someone who gave enough of a damn to stay on the line. Come visit me next Sunday, he said finally. I want to show you something. That was 8 years ago. I'd been visiting every Sunday since. Over those 8 years, I'd paid for more than just weddings and roofs. Dad's car when the transmission died. Mom's dental work when her insurance didn't cover it. Marcus's first apartment security deposit when he was between cases and cash was tight. The investment property's property taxes 3 years running when the rental income didn't cover it. I kept a spreadsheet, not because I was planning to ask for the money back, but because I needed to see it written down. Proof that I existed, that I'd given, that I'd tried. Total over 8 years, $247,000. Number of times they'd invited me to family dinner, 0. Number of times they'd asked how I was doing, twice. Both times when they needed something and were softening me up first. Number of times Marcus had mocked me for visiting Grandpa instead of networking or building my career. At least 20. You know he's just manipulating you, Marcus said once. At a forced family Christmas where I'd shown up because Grandpa asked me to. Old people get clingy. They make you feel guilty so you'll stick around. You're enabling his dependence. This from the man whose law school I'd paid for, whose wedding I'd funded, who lived in an apartment I'd secured with my credit score because his was tanked from maxed out credit cards and a car lease he couldn't afford. I didn't respond, just finished my drink and left early. Again. But Grandpa wasn't clingy. Grandpa was clear-eyed and sharp and honest in ways that made my parents uncomfortable. He called out bullshit. He asked hard questions. He remembered things people wanted forgotten. And over those 8 years of Sunday visits, he'd started telling me stories. Stories about my grandmother, about their early marriage, about Dad's childhood, how he'd been shy and anxious and desperate to please his own father, Grandpa's dad, who'd been hard and cold and impossible to satisfy. How Dad had spent his whole life trying to be the opposite of that, and somehow ended up exactly the same. Stories about the family dynamics I'd sensed but never understood. How Mom had come from money and married Dad when he had none. How she'd resented him for years because she'd given up her family's approval to be with him. How Marcus had been this save-the-marriage baby and I'd been. He always stopped there. Changed the subject. Got vague. You'd been what? I asked once 6 months before he died. Different timing, he said. Different circumstances. That's all. Grandpa. When I'm gone, he said, looking at me with those sharp blue eyes that saw everything. There are things you'll need to know. Things I've kept quiet about because it wasn't my place while I was alive. But I'm making sure you'll have answers. Okay? You're not going anywhere. Danny. Gentle. Firm. I'm 87 years old. I'm going somewhere. We all do. I just want to make sure you have what you need when I'm not here to tell you myself. He died 4 months later. Cardiac arrest in his sleep. Peaceful, they said. I got the call at work. Tuesday morning. I was in the middle of a client meeting. My assistant knocked on the conference room door, said it was an emergency. The facility director's voice on the other end of the line was practiced and sympathetic and distant. Mr. Preston passed peacefully this morning. We're so sorry for your loss. You're listed as his primary emergency contact. Can you come to the facility to handle the arrangements? I drove there in a fog, called my parents from the car. Dad answered. Grandpa died. I said. Silence. Then, when? This morning. Okay. We'll come by the facility this weekend to get his things. I'm on my way there now. I'll handle it. You don't have to do that. I want to. Another silence. Then, fine. Keep us posted. He hung up. Didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't offer to meet me there. Just hung up. Marcus texted 20 minutes later. Heard about Grandpa. That sucks. I'm slammed with a deposition all week. Can you handle the funeral stuff? I didn't respond. I spent 3 days at the facility sorting through Grandpa's belongings. Clothes, books, photos. The harmonica he'd never learned to play but kept on his nightstand anyway. His wedding ring, which he'd worn every day for 63 years even though Grandma had been gone for almost 30. I found a letter in his nightstand, addressed to me, sealed, with a note on the outside in his handwriting. For Danny. To be delivered by my attorney after my death. If you're reading this before that, put it back and wait. I put it back. The funeral was small. Grandpa had outlived most of his friends. His brother died 6 years ago. His sister went 8 years before that. But 73 people showed up anyway. Neighbors from the old neighborhood where he'd lived before the assisted living facility. People from his church. Staff from the facility who came on their day off because they'd actually loved him. My parents arrived 10 minutes late. Mom wore black but kept checking her phone. Dad shook hands with people he didn't know and made small talk about the weather. Marcus showed up in his courtroom suit, the one he wore when he was trying to impress, and spent the entire service texting. During the reception, I overheard Marcus talking to one of Dad's old work friends. Yeah, it's sad, Marcus was saying. But honestly, he was ready. You know? 87 years. He had a good run. And at least now we can stop worrying about the facility bills. I'd been paying the facility bills. All of them. For 8 years. $12,000 a month. Out of my own account. Because when Grandpa moved there, Dad had made some comment about how tight money was and I'd offered to help and he'd said, just this once until we figure things out. 8 years. Just once. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. Found a corner. Stood there. That's when Grandpa's estate attorney found me. Richard Bowen. Mid-60s. Salt and pepper beard. He'd been at the service but hadn't mingled. Just watched from the back. Mr. Preston, he said, extending his hand. Daniel Preston? Yes. Richard Bowen. I'm your grandfather's attorney. I'm very sorry for your loss. He spoke about you often. Thank you. I need to schedule a meeting with you and your family for the reading of the will. Are you available Friday morning? 10 a.m. I can be. Good. Your parents and brother as well. I've already reached out to them. They've confirmed. Something in his voice. professional but pointed, like he knew something I didn't. "Is there something I should know?" I asked. He smiled. Sad smile. "Everything you need to know is in the will. Friday. My office." He handed me a business card and walked away. I stood there, holding the card, feeling like I'd just been handed the first piece of a puzzle I didn't know existed. Friday morning came. I took the day off work, wore a suit, drove to Bowen's office in Midtown, 19th floor, corner suite, the kind of place that charged $500 an hour and earned every penny. My parents were already there. Mom in a navy dress. Dad in the suit he wore to funerals and weddings and nothing else. Marcus arrived 5 minutes late, carrying a coffee cup from the expensive place downstairs, checking his phone. Bowen ushered us into his conference room. Mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city that cost more in rent than most people's salaries. "Thank you all for coming," Bowen said, sitting at the head of the table. He opened a file folder so thick it required 2 hands to lift. "I'll get straight to it. Your father left a very specific will. It's detailed, it's binding, and it contains conditions." Dad shifted in his seat. "Conditions?" "Yes, I'll read the relevant portions." Bowen cleared his throat and began. "I, Walter Preston, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. To my son, Michael Preston, I leave my collection of tools from my years in construction, currently stored in Unit 42 at the storage facility on Route 9, along with the sum of $10,000 to be used for their maintenance and preservation." Dad's face went red. "10,000? That's it. Please let me finish." Bowen's voice was ice. "To my daughter-in-law, Susan Preston, I leave my wife's cookbook collection and the sum of $5,000. Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. "To my grandson, Marcus Preston, I leave my law books from my brief time in law school, which I hope serve as a reminder that prestige and profession are meaningless without character." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "That's it? Law books. And to my grandson, Daniel Preston." Bowen paused, looked at me, something in his eyes I couldn't read. "To my grandson, Daniel Preston, I leave the remainder of my estate, including all financial assets, property holdings, investment accounts, and personal effects not otherwise designated. Current value of approximately $6.2 million. The room went silent. $6.2 million. Couldn't breathe. "There's a condition," Bowen continued. "Daniel must fulfill the following requirements to receive the inheritance. First, he must read all documents contained in the sealed box being held in this office, which contain the full history of his birth and adoption, including information deliberately withheld from him by his parents." The floor dropped out from under me. "Adoption. Second," Bowen said, his voice steady while my world collapsed. "Daniel must locate and, if willing, meet with the family members whose existence has been hidden from him. Third, he must distribute funds as he sees fit to those individuals who demonstrated genuine love and care during Walter's lifetime, with no interference from other family members. If these conditions are met, the full inheritance transfers to Daniel within 90 days. "This is bullshit," Marcus said, standing up. "He can't do this. This is coercion. This is entirely legal," Bowen said, not looking at him. "Your grandfather was very clear and very thorough. His mental competency was evaluated by 3 separate doctors in the months before his death. This will is ironclad." Dad was staring at me, not angry, worse than angry, guilty. "You knew," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from someone else. "You knew I was adopted. Danny, don't call me that. We need to talk about this as a family." "We're not a family," I said, standing up. My hands were shaking. "We've never been a family. But at least now I know why." "Mr. Preston," Bowen said, standing as well, "I have the box in my office. Would you like to take it now or—" "Now." "Of course." He left the room, came back 2 minutes later carrying a banker's box, the kind you use for old files and tax documents and things you don't want to look at but can't throw away. He set it on the table in front of me. "Everything you need is in here," he said gently. "Birth certificates, adoption papers, letters from your biological mother, correspondence between your grandfather and various parties involved, and a personal letter from Walter to you, written 3 weeks before he died." I stared at the box. Cardboard, plain, unremarkable, containing the answers to every question I'd been too afraid to ask. "I need to go," I said. "Daniel," Mom started. "Don't." I picked up the box, heavier than it looked. "Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my apartment. I need time." "But the will," Marcus said. "Fuck the will." I looked at him. "Fuck the money. Fuck all of this. I need to figure out who I actually am." I walked out of that conference room carrying a box that weighed 20 pounds and felt like the entire world. I didn't go home. Couldn't. Instead, I drove to the only place that made sense. The old house where Grandpa lived before the assisted living facility. The house where I'd spent weekends as a kid. Where he taught me to fix a leaky faucet and change a tire and scramble eggs that didn't stick to the pan. The house was sold years ago. New family living there now. But I parked across the street anyway. Sat in my car. Stared at the blue shutters that used to be green. The porch where Grandpa used to sit in his rocking chair and wave at neighbors. I opened the box. On top was a letter. My name on the envelope in Grandpa's handwriting. I opened it with shaking hands. "Danny," it read. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I'm not there to explain this in person. But some truths are easier to read than to hear. You're not my biological grandson. Not in the way you think. Your father adopted you when you were 3 days old. Private adoption. Rushed. Expensive. Your mother didn't want it. She never wanted it. But your father felt he owed a debt to someone he'd wronged, and taking you in was his way of paying that debt. Your biological mother was named Sarah Mitchell. She was 22 when you were born. She was also your father's half-sister from an affair his father had before he married me. That makes her your aunt. That makes your father your uncle. That makes everything you thought you knew about your family a lie constructed to cover up shame that should never have been yours to carry. Sarah wanted to keep you. She fought for you. But your father's father, my ex-husband, a man I divorced when I learned what kind of person he really was, threatened to destroy her life if she didn't give you up. Michael was young, scared, trapped between a father he feared and a half-sister he barely knew. He took you in not out of love, but out of obligation and guilt. Your mother resented you from the moment you arrived. She resented Michael for bringing you home. She resented the reminder of the family scandal. She resented that you existed at all. Marcus came 2 years later, a biological son she could love without complication. I stayed in their lives because of you. Only you. I watched them treat you like a burden while I bit my tongue and waited for the right time to tell you the truth. But there was never a right time. Just the time after I was gone, when they couldn't stop you from knowing. Sarah never stopped looking for you. She spent 37 years wondering if you're okay. If you're happy. If you hate her for giving you up. She doesn't know I found her 6 years ago. She doesn't know I've been in contact. She doesn't know that I made sure she'd be able to find you when the time came. Her contact information is in this box. So is the information of your half-siblings. You have 2, a sister and a brother. Both younger, both good people. Use the money to build a life free from the people who treated you like a mistake. Use it to find the family that wanted you. Use it to understand that their failure to love you was never about your worth. It was always about their shame. I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. And I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better while I was alive. But I can give you this, the truth, the means to act on it, and the freedom to choose what comes next. Love always, Grandpa. I sat in my car across from that house with the wrong color shutters and I read that letter 4 times. Then I read it again, and again, until the words stopped making sense. Until they were just shapes on paper that were supposed to explain why I'd spent 37 years feeling like an intruder in my own life. I was adopted. I was the product of an affair. My father was my uncle. My mother wasn't my mother. I had siblings I'd never met. And Grandpa had known for 6 years and said nothing. No, that wasn't right. Grandpa had said everything, just not with words, with time, with presence, with Sundays and coffee and hard candy and stories that circled around the truth without landing on it because the truth was a bomb and he was waiting until he wasn't there to absorb the blast. I put the letter back in the box, carefully, like it might disintegrate if I wasn't gentle enough. Then I started going through the rest of the contents. Birth certificate. Original. Baby boy Mitchell born at Mercy General Hospital. Mother, Sarah Mitchell. Father, unknown. Weight, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Time, 4:17 a.m. Amended birth certificate. Daniel Michael Preston born at Mercy General Hospital. Mother, Susan Preston. Father, Michael Preston. Everything else the same except the lie printed in official ink. Adoption papers. Signed by Sarah Mitchell, witness. None. Signed by Michael Preston. Witness. Richard Bowen, attorney at law. Dated 3 days after my birth. Photos. Sarah Mitchell holding a baby who must have been me. She's crying. She looks young. Too young. Devastated. There's a woman next to her. Older. Hand on her shoulder. Stern face. I flipped the photo over. Someone's written the day I gave him up on the back. More photos. Sarah at various ages. Pregnant in one. Holding a little girl in another. The girl is maybe 2. Another photo. Sarah with a man and 2 kids. The girl is older. Maybe 10. There's a boy. Maybe 8. They're at a beach. They're smiling. My sister. My brother. Half, but who's counting? Letters. Stacks of them. Letters from Sarah to Grandpa. The earliest dated 32 years ago. Dear Mr. Preston. The first one reads, I know you have no reason to help me. I know what your son did was to try to fix a terrible situation. But I need to know if he's okay. If Daniel is okay. I think about him every day. I dream about him. I need to know he's safe. Please, if you ever have any kindness in your heart, just tell me he's safe. Another letter. 10 years later. Dear Walter. This one more familiar. She's calling him by his first name. Thank you for the photo. He's beautiful. He looks happy. That's all I needed to know. I won't ask for more. But thank you. Thank you for giving me this. Dozens of letters. Back and forth. Grandpa responding. Telling her about my life in broad strokes. My graduation. My job. Never specifics that could identify me or lead her to contact my parents. Just enough to let her know I existed. That I was okay. The most recent letter. 2 years ago. Walter, I know I don't have the right to ask for more than you've already given me. But I'm getting older. My kids are grown. And I need them to know they have a brother. I need to tell them before I can't anymore. I need Daniel to know he has a family that wanted him. Please, when the time is right, however it needs to happen. Please. Grandpa's response. Handwritten. The shaky handwriting from his last years. Sarah, I promise. When I'm gone and he's free from their influence, he'll know everything. I'm making sure of it. He's a good man. Better than my son deserves. And he'll find you. I'm certain of that. I sat in that car until the sun started setting. Until the new family in the old house turned on their porch light and I realized I'd been staring at their home for 4 hours. I drove home. Apartment. Luxury building. Doorman who nodded at me and didn't ask why I looked like I'd been hit by a train. Elevator. 32nd floor. Door that locked behind me with a sound like a bank vault. I set the box on my dining room table. Stood there. Looked around at the apartment I'd bought to prove something. To who? Parents who didn't want me? Brother who mocked me? To myself? The white walls felt like a hospital. The furniture felt like a showroom. Nothing personal. Nothing warm. Just expensive and empty and exactly what I'd been taught to want. My phone buzzed. Text from Dad. We need to talk. This is a family matter and it should stay in the family. Delete. Text from Mom. Daniel, please. Let's discuss this rationally. Your grandfather wasn't well at the end. He was confused. Delete. Text from Marcus. You know he's manipulating you from beyond the grave, right? This is textbook elder abuse. We can contest the will. I know lawyers. Delete. 17 more texts over the next hour. I deleted them without reading past the first few words. Then a call from a number I didn't recognize. Local area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Daniel. A woman's voice. Nervous. Shaking. Daniel Preston? Yes. My name is Sarah Mitchell. Her voice broke. I'm your mother. Your biological mother. Walter's attorney contacted me. He said you have the box. He said you know. I couldn't speak. I know this is too much, she said, words tumbling out fast like she was afraid I'd hang up. I know you don't know me. I know I have no right to call you. But I've waited 37 years to hear your voice and I couldn't wait another day. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For everything. For giving you up. For not fighting harder. Stop, I said, gentle as I could manage. Stop apologizing. Silence on the other end. Breathing. I need time, I said. I need to process this. All of it. But I'm not hanging up because I'm angry at you. I'm hanging up because I don't have words yet. Okay? Okay. She was crying. I could hear it. Okay. I'll wait. However long you need. Thank you, Daniel. Before I could hang up. I loved you. I love you. I never stopped. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every single day. I loved you. The line went dead before I could respond. I stood in my empty apartment with my phone in my hand, and for the first time in 37 years, I let myself fall apart. I called out of work for a week. Told them it was a family emergency. Not a lie. The most honest thing I'd said in years. I spent the first 2 days reading everything in the box. Every letter. Every document. Every photo. I made a timeline. Tried to piece together the story Grandpa had left me in fragments. Sarah Mitchell was 22. College student. Part-time job. She met my father, Michael, her half-brother, though she didn't know that at the time, at a family funeral for their shared father. Walter's ex-husband. The man who'd destroyed enough lives that even his funeral was more relief than grief. They talked. Exchanged numbers. Sarah thought he was kind. Thought he understood what it was like to grow up in the shadow of a cruel man. She didn't know they were related. Nobody told her. Nobody thought it mattered because they weren't supposed to stay in touch. But they did. For months. And then one night, at a bar neither of them should have been at. After too many drinks and too many shared stories about the father they both hated, something happened. Michael found out they were related a week later. His mother, Walter's ex-wife, told him during an argument. Threw it in his face. That girl you've been seeing? The one from the funeral? She's your half-sister. Your father knocked up some woman before we married and never told anyone. Congratulations. You've been dating family. Michael told Sarah. Sarah panicked. They agreed to never speak again, to pretend it never happened. Then Sarah found out she was pregnant. She wanted to keep me, but Michael's father, the shared father, was still alive then. Barely, but alive. And he found out. And he threatened Sarah. Told her he'd destroy her reputation. Make sure she never finished school. Never got a job. Make sure everyone knew what she'd done. It wasn't your fault, Sarah had written in one letter to Grandpa. None of it was his fault. But his father made me believe that keeping him meant ruining both our lives. So I signed the papers. And I've regretted it every day since. Michael took me because his father forced him to. Penance. Punishment. A constant reminder of the sin he'd committed. Susan, Michael's girlfriend at the time, my adoptive mother, didn't want me. But Michael married her anyway. Promised her they'd have their own kids. That I'd be temporary. That eventually I'd age out and leave and they could forget the whole thing. Except I didn't age out. I stayed. And every day I stayed was a reminder of the family secret they'd all agreed to bury. No wonder they couldn't love me. I was evidence. On the third day, I hired a private investigator. Not to find Sarah, I had her information, but to find out what my parents had been telling people. What the story was. Who knew? The PI reported back in 48 hours. Efficient and thorough. According to public records and social media and interviews with family friends, the official story was that Susan couldn't have children, that they'd adopted me as a newborn. Private adoption. Closed records. They'd told everyone they wanted to give a child a good home. Marcus was their miracle baby, born 2 years later when they'd given up hope. Everyone loved that story. It was on their Christmas cards for 5 years. Nobody knew the truth. Not their friends. Not their extended family. Not even Marcus. My entire existence had been a cover story. On the 4th day, I called Richard Bowen. "Mr. Preston," he said, answering on the first ring. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know yet. I need to ask you something." "Of course." "How long did you know? About the adoption? About Sarah? About everything?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I've been your grandfather's attorney for 40 years. I handled your adoption. I knew from the beginning. And you never said anything. It wasn't my place. It wasn't my story to tell. But Walter made me promise that if anything happened to him, you'd know everything. So I drafted the will accordingly. And I made sure the documents were preserved. Why didn't he tell me while he was alive?" Another pause. "He was afraid. Afraid you'd hate him for keeping it secret. Afraid you'd confront your parents and they'd cut you off from him entirely. He loved you more than anything in this world, Daniel. And he thought the best gift he could give you was the truth after he was gone, when no one could keep you from it anymore." "That's not a gift," I said. "That's a time bomb." "Yes," Bowen said. "It is, but it's also freedom. You're not bound to people who never deserved you. You're not obligated to maintain relationships built on lies. You have answers, you have resources, and you have a choice about what comes next. That's more than most people get." He wasn't wrong, but it didn't make it easier. "I need to meet her," I said. "Sarah, I need to meet her. I can arrange that." "When?" "Soon. This week. Before I lose my nerve. I'll call her attorney. We'll set something up. Neutral location. No pressure. You can leave whenever you want." "Thank you." "Daniel," he said before hanging up, "your grandfather loved you. I hope you know that. Everything he did, including keeping this secret, was because he loved you." "I know," I said, "and I did. But knowing didn't make it hurt less." We met at a coffee shop. Neutral. Public. Safe. She was early. I saw her through the window before I went in. Sitting at a corner table. Hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. Staring at the door. I recognized her from the photos. Older now. 59. Gray in her hair. Lines around her eyes. But the same face. The same nervous energy. I walked in. Our eyes met. She stood up so fast she almost knocked over the table. "Daniel." "Sarah." We stood there, 3 feet apart, an entire lifetime between us. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either. Do you want to sit?" I nodded, sat down across from her. Ordered coffee I wouldn't drink just to have something to do with my hands. "I don't know where to start," she said. "Neither do I. I thought about this moment for 37 years. What I'd say, how I'd explain. But now that you're here, I don't have words. Just tell me the truth. That's all I want." So she did. For 2 hours she told me everything. About meeting Michael. About the pregnancy. About the threats. About signing the papers while crying so hard she couldn't see the signature line. About the nightmares. About seeing kids around my age and wondering. About the hole in her life that never filled. "I got married when you were 5, she said. "Good man. Kind. I told him about you before the wedding. He said he understood. We had 2 kids together. Emily is 30. David is 27. They're good kids. They have your eyes. Do they know about me?" "Yes. I told them 3 years ago, when they were old enough to understand." Emily cried. David got angry, not at me, at the situation, at the fact that they had a brother they'd never met. "They've wanted to meet you ever since. Why didn't you reach out sooner?" "I was afraid. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid you'd have a good life and I'd ruin it by showing up. Afraid your parents would. She stopped. I'm sorry. I don't want to badmouth them. You can, I said. They've earned it. Walter told me about them. How they treated you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you went through that. If I'd known. You would have done what? Taken me back? Fought them? Yes, I would have. I know that sounds convenient now, but yes. If I'd known what they were doing to you, I would have fought. I believed her. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I wanted to believe. But I did. I want to meet them, I said. Emily and David. She smiled. Real smile. The first one I'd seen. They're outside. What? In the car. I told them to wait, that you might need time. But they insisted on coming. Just in case. Couldn't help it. I laughed. You brought them. I've been waiting 37 years to introduce my kids to each other. I wasn't taking chances. We walked out together. There was a car parked across the street. 2 people in the front seats. When they saw us, they got out. Emily looked like Sarah. Same dark hair. Same quick movements. David was tall. Broader. But the eyes. Sarah was right. They had my eyes. Hi, Emily said. Nervous. Excited. I'm Emily. This is David. We're your siblings, I finished. I know. This is so weird, David said. Then sorry. That came out wrong. Not bad weird. Just weird. No, I said. It is weird. This whole thing is weird. We stood there. For people who shared DNA and nothing else. And somehow it didn't feel wrong. There's a diner around the corner, Sarah said. The kind that makes terrible coffee and great pancakes. Do you want to? Yes, I said, before she could finish. Yes. We spent 4 hours at that diner. Talking. Asking questions. Telling stories. Emily was a teacher. High school English. David worked in tech. Software engineer. They asked about my job. My life. What I liked. What I hated. I told them about Grandpa. About the Sundays. About the will. About the box. $6 million, David said, whistling low. That's insane. It's not about the money, I said. No, Sarah said. It's about the truth. Money's just the tool he used to make sure you got it. Smart man, Emily said. I wish I'd met him. He would have liked you, I said, and meant it. When we finally left, when the waitress started giving us looks because we'd been there through 2 shift changes, Sarah walked me to my car. I don't expect anything from you, she said. I just want you to know that. You don't owe me a relationship. You don't owe me forgiveness. You don't owe me anything. But if you want us in your life, we're here. I want that, I said. I'm not sure what it looks like yet, but I want that. She hugged me. First time. I didn't expect it. Didn't know how to respond. But after a second, I hugged her back. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry for everything you went through. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't yours either. We stood there for a moment. Then she let go, stepped back. Call me when you're ready, she said. No pressure, no timeline, just when you're ready. I called her the next day. Over the following weeks, I started building something I'd never had before. Family. Not the people who raised me. Not the people who shared my last name by accident. But people who chose to know me. Sarah and I talked every few days. Sometimes about the past. Sometimes about nothing. She told me about her job. She was a nurse, had been for 30 years. Told me about her husband, Tom, who was nervous to meet me but wanted to. Told me about Emily's wedding that was coming up in 6 months and how much she wanted me there. Emily and I texted constantly. She sent me photos of her students' terrible essays. I sent her stories about disastrous client meetings. We had the same sense of humor, the same sarcasm. It was like finding a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. David and I met for lunch once a week. He reminded me of Grandpa, quiet, observant, slow to trust but loyal when he did. We talked about work, about tech, About the family we both grew up in, his functional mind broken. He didn't pity me, just listened. That was enough. And I didn't contact my parents. Not for 2 months. They tried. Hundreds of texts, dozens of calls, emails, voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. Dad, we need to discuss this situation. It's gotten out of hand. Please call me. Mom, Daniel, you're being manipulated. Your grandfather was sick. He didn't understand what he was doing. Please come home so we can talk about this rationally. Marcus, you're really going to throw away 37 years over some paperwork? Come on, man. You're better than this. I deleted them all. Didn't respond. Didn't engage. Then the money started running out. I'd been paying for so much for so long that I hadn't realized how dependent they'd become. The facility bills for Grandpa, I'd stopped paying them the day of the funeral. Their mortgage, I'd been covering half of it for 3 years. Their car payments, their property taxes, their credit card bills when they had a tough month. All of it stopped. Within 6 weeks, they were desperate. Dad called from a number I didn't have blocked. I answered without thinking. Daniel, relief in his voice, like I was the solution instead of the problem. Thank God. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. I should have hung up, but I was curious. Morbidly curious. Like watching a car crash. Talk. We're in trouble. Financial trouble. The mortgage is behind. The property taxes are due. The investment property, the renters moved out and we can't cover the costs. We need help. You need money. We need family support. You need money, I repeated. From me. The son you never wanted. The nephew you took out of guilt. The reminder of the family secret you spent 37 years trying to forget. Silence. You know, he said finally, I know everything. Grandpa made sure of it. Then you understand. You understand why it was complicated. Why we couldn't love me, finished. Why you couldn't treat me like I mattered. Why you couldn't invite me to dinner or show up to my races or care about anything I did unless it benefited you. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed. Bitter laugh. No humor in it. You want to talk about fair? I paid for your lives for a decade. For Marcus's education. For Mom's dental work. For your roof and your cars and your vacations and your anniversary dinners I wasn't invited to. I paid for the mortgage on a house I wasn't welcome in. And the one time you call me in 2 months, it's because you need money. We're family. No, I said. We're not. We never were. You made sure of that. What do you want from us? His voice cracked. An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. We're sorry. We should have done better. But we can't change the past. We can only move forward. I don't want an apology. I want you to leave me alone. I want you to stop calling. Stop texting. Stop pretending you care about me when you only care about what I can give you. And the money? You're just going to keep it all? After everything we did for you. Everything you did for me? I was shaking now. Angry. Angrier than I'd been in years. You gave me a house where I wasn't wanted. You gave me a childhood full of evidence that I was less than. You gave me 37 years of wondering what was wrong with me. And now you want credit for that. We raised you. Sarah wanted to raise me. You took me because you were forced to. Because you made a mistake and couldn't deal with the consequences. Don't pretend you did me a favor. He hung up. Just hung up. No goodbye. No final argument. Just silence. I sat there holding my phone and felt nothing. No guilt. No sadness. No regret. Just relief. Mom called a week later. Same script. Different voice. Daniel, please. We're going to lose the house. We need your help. Sell the investment property. It's underwater. We owe more than it's worth. Then you shouldn't have bought it. We bought it for you. For all of us. For the family. You bought it for yourselves. Don't rewrite history now that it's convenient. What do you want us to say? That we made mistakes? Fine. We made mistakes. But you're punishing us for things that happened before you were born. I'm not punishing you. I'm just not saving you anymore. You're going to let us lose everything? You never gave me anything to lose. So yes. She hung up too, faster than Dad. Less patience for the word no. Marcus was last. Showed up at my apartment unannounced. 3 months after the will reading. The doorman called up. Said my brother was in the lobby. I almost said to send him away, but I was curious. He came up, stood in my doorway in his expensive suit looking like he'd missed a few meals. Thinner, tired. Can I come in? No. Come on, man. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. They're going to lose the house, he said. Mom and Dad, they're going to lose everything. I know. And you're okay with that? Are you? I can't help them. My salary's already stretched. I've got student loans. That I paid for. What? Your student loans. I paid $15,000 toward them. 3 separate payments over 2 years. Did you think they just disappeared? He stared at me. I thought Dad helped. Dad couldn't help. Dad was broke. I helped. Like I helped with everything else. Like I always did. Then help now. Why? Because they're family. They're not my family. They never were. You know that now. I know you know. Mom told you. Or Dad did. Or you figured it out from the will. He didn't deny it. Just stood there. Did you know before? I asked. Before the will. Did you know I was adopted? No. He looked away. I swear I didn't. I don't know what I thought. I just knew they treated you different and I never questioned it. Why not? Because it worked out for me. Because being the favorite was nice. Because I'm a selfish asshole who didn't want to rock the boat. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. I'm sorry, he said. For all of it. For the way I treated you. For the jokes. For not standing up for you. For taking and never giving anything back. Okay. Okay. He looked at me. That's it. What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? I don't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I heard you. And that's more than you've ever given me. He nodded. Slowly. Will you help them? No. Danny. Don't call me that. Daniel. Please. They're going to lose everything. They already lost everything. They lost it the day they decided I wasn't worth loving. This is just the financial consequences catching up. He left. Didn't argue. Didn't fight. Just left. And I closed the door and felt lighter than I had in years. The house went into foreclosure 4 months later. I didn't help. Didn't send money. Didn't bail them out. They moved into an apartment. Smaller. Cheaper. Sold most of their furniture. Downsized their lives to fit the consequences they'd created. Marcus got a roommate. Started taking public transit. Sold the Porsche. I didn't feel bad. I felt free. I used the inheritance the way Grandpa wanted. First, I paid off Sarah's mortgage. All of it. She cried when I told her. Said she couldn't accept it. I told her it wasn't charity. It was a gift from her son to the mother who wanted him. Then I set up college funds for Emily's 2 kids. And for David's daughter. Full ride for each of them. No loans. No debt. Just education and opportunity. I donated to the assisted living facility where Grandpa spent his last years. $500,000. To renovate the common areas. To increase staff pay. To make sure other families' grandfathers had the dignity Grandpa deserved. I gave money to the diner where Grandpa and I used to eat. Bought them new equipment. Paid for renovations. They put a plaque by the booth we always sat in. Walter Preston's table. It made me cry the first time I saw it. And I set up a trust for myself. Not to live off. I still worked. Still earned. But to have security. To know I'd never be dependent on people who didn't love me. The rest I saved. For emergencies. For Sarah if she needed it. For Emily and David. For the family I'd found instead of the one I'd lost. A year after Grandpa died, Emily got married. Big wedding. Beautiful. Sarah cried through the whole ceremony. Tom walked Emily down the aisle, and when they asked who gives this woman, he said her mother and I, and her brother Daniel. I cried then too. Couldn't help it. David was the best man. I sat in the second row. with Sarah and Tom, with family. At the reception, Emily pulled me aside. "I'm glad you're here," she said. "I'm glad I'm here too. Mom's wanted this for so long. All of us together. It means everything to her. It means everything to me too." She hugged me. "You're a good brother." I'd never heard those words before. Never been anyone's brother in a way that mattered. Felt good. That night, Sarah came to find me. I was standing outside, getting air, looking at the stars. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About Grandpa. About how much he would have loved this. Being here, meeting you, seeing this. He's here," she said. "In all of this. In the fact that you found us. In the fact that we're family now." "I spent 37 years wondering what was wrong with me," I said. "Why I wasn't enough. Why they couldn't love me the way they loved Marcus. And now I know it was never about me. It was always about them." "And does knowing help?" "Yes, it doesn't fix it, but it helps." We stood there in silence for a moment. Then she said, "Your grandfather left you more than money. He left you a choice. To stay trapped in their story or to write your own. You chose yourself. That takes courage. Or stubbornness. Stubborn runs in the family." She smiled. "The good family." I laughed. Real laugh. The kind I didn't know I was capable of anymore. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For wanting me, even when you couldn't keep me. For spending 37 years wondering if I was okay. For loving me before you knew me. For this." I gestured at the reception. At Emily dancing with Tom. At David laughing with his wife. "For all of this." She took my hand. "You deserved a family that loved you from the beginning. I'm sorry you didn't get that, but you have it now. And that's not nothing." "No," I said. "It's everything." 2 years after Grandpa's death, I got a call from Richard Bowen. "I have something for you," he said. "Your grandfather left a final letter, to be delivered 2 years after his death, per his instructions." "Another letter?" "The last one, I promise." I met him at his office the next day. He handed me an envelope, thicker this time, heavier. "Read it when you're ready," he said. I waited until I got home, made coffee, sat at the table, opened it. "Danny," it read, "if you're reading this, you've made it through the hard part. You know the truth. You've met Sarah. I hope you've met Emily and David. I hope you've chosen them over the people who didn't deserve you. I've been thinking a lot about family, about what it means, about the difference between blood and love. And I've come to this conclusion. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up, who stays, who loves you not because they have to, but because they choose to. Your father wasn't my son in the ways that mattered. I raised him. I provided for him. But I never reached him. He became the kind of man his own father was. Cold, selfish, incapable of love that cost something. But you were the grandson I actually wanted. The person I was proud to know. The man who showed up every Sunday not because you had to, but because you cared. That's family. Sarah is family. She gave you up to protect you. She spent 37 years loving you from a distance. That's family. Emily and David, I never met them, but I know they're family because Sarah raised them and Sarah is good and kind and everything your father should have been. And you have a choice now, to build the family you want instead of accepting the one you were given. To surround yourself with people who see you, who value you, who love you not for what you can give them but for who you are. I hope I gave you that choice. I hope the money helps. But more than that, I hope the truth sets you free. I'm proud of you, Danny. I've always been proud of you. And wherever I am now, I hope you know that I'm still rooting for you, still believing in you, still loving you the way you deserved to be loved from the beginning. Build a good life, a free life, a life full of people who choose you. That's all I ever wanted for you. Love always and forever, Grandpa. I sat there holding that letter and I cried. Not sad crying, not angry crying, just crying because sometimes grief and gratitude feel the same. Grandpa gave me everything, not the money, The permission. Permission to stop begging for love from people who would never give it. Permission to find the family that wanted me. Permission to be okay with walking away. And that was worth more than $6 million. Today, I have dinner with Sarah every Sunday. Same day I used to visit Grandpa. Different location. Same feeling of being wanted. Emily and I text constantly. She sends me photos of her kids. I send her terrible jokes. We have inside jokes. We have history now. The kind that builds instead of breaks. David and I meet for lunch once a week. We talk about work, about life, about the family we both got lucky enough to find. I'm not lonely anymore. I have people who call just to see how I am, who invite me to things, who remember my birthday without being prompted, who show up. And my parents? I haven't spoken to them in 3 years, haven't seen them, haven't responded to their emails or their cards or their attempts to reconcile. Because reconciliation requires two parties willing to admit fault. And they never have. Every attempt at contact is an excuse, an explanation, a request for money or time or absolution they haven't earned. So I don't engage. I don't forgive. I don't forget. I just live. Without them. Marcus reached out once. A year ago. Email. Subject line. I'm sorry. The email was long. Detailed. Talked about therapy. About realizing how he'd benefited from their treatment of me. About understanding now that silence is complicity. About wanting to do better. I read it. Thought about it. Didn't respond. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday the anger will fade enough that I can hear his apology without feeling like it's asking something from me I can't give. But not yet. For now, I have the family I chose. The family that chose me. And that's enough. Last week, Sarah asked if I'd come to Sunday dinner. Family tradition, she said. Everyone comes. Emily and Tom and their kids. David and his wife and their daughter. Sometimes friends. Sometimes extended family. You're always invited, she said. You know that. But I wanted to make it official. Your family. You have a seat at our table. Always. I went. Brought wine. Expensive bottle because I can afford it and because I wanted to. When I arrived, David's daughter. 6 years old, curly hair, my eyes. Ran to the door and yelled, Uncle Daniel's here. Uncle Daniel. I'm someone's uncle. Someone's brother. Someone's son. And they're happy I'm here. We ate. We talked. We laughed. The kids told terrible jokes. Emily's oldest showed me her art project. Sarah told an embarrassing story about me from when I was a baby that she shouldn't remember but does because she's held on to every detail for 37 years. At one point, I looked around that table, at the people who welcomed me, who wanted me, who made space for me without me having to earn it. And I thought about Grandpa, about his Sunday visits, about his quiet support, about the way he showed up when no one else did. He gave me this, not just the money, the permission to find the people who love me, the courage to walk away from the ones who didn't, the understanding that family is a choice. And I'm grateful, not for the pain, not for the years of wondering what was wrong with me, but for the ending, for the truth, for the freedom, for the family I have now. After dinner, Sarah pulled me aside. You doing okay? She asked. Yeah, I'm good. Really good or just surface good? I smiled. Really good. I mean it. Good, she said. Because you deserve really good. You deserve everything good. I know, I said, and I meant it. Because for the first time in my life, I believe it. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be wanted. I deserve to take up space without apologizing for it. Grandpa taught me that, not with words, with actions, with Sundays, with showing up, with leaving me a box full of truth and a bank account full of freedom and a letter full of permission to choose myself. And I did. I chose myself. I chose the family that wanted me. I chose to stop waiting for people who were never going to see me. And it was the best decision I ever made. Grandpa would be proud. I know he would. Because wherever he is, he's watching me live the life he wanted me to have. The life he made possible. And I'm finally actually genuinely happy. not the performance of happiness, not the success that looks like happiness from a distance. Real happiness, the kind that comes from being known and loved and chosen. That's what Grandpa gave me, not $6 million. The knowledge that I was worth loving all along, that their failure to see it was never about my value. It was always about their shame, and I don't carry their shame anymore. I left it at that conference table with the will and the revelations and the life I used to think I wanted. I carry the love instead, the Sunday dinners, the inside jokes with Emily, the lunches with David, the phone calls with Sarah that start with, "How are you really?" and end with, "I love you." That's the inheritance that matters. That's what Grandpa left me, and I'm never letting it go. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Before you go, I've left 2 more stories here on your screen, both from men who discovered that family isn't always who you're born to. It's who stands by you when the truth comes out. Click on whichever one calls to you. And if you want to join our community of people who understand what it's like to be the outsider looking in, that notification bell is your invitation. Until tomorrow, remember, your story matters, even if they tried to erase it.